Hey guys, just another warning in case you don't read it in the title. This is going to be footage from the final boss of the story missions. If you haven't got this far, I'd probably recommend not watching it. I won't reveal any story points or plot points or the cutscenes afterwards. But if you haven't got this far and you don't want to see the final boss or the fight, then probably don't watch this yet. What's going on, guys? I thought I'd just let that cutscene run on its own for a second. So I finished my first playthrough of 1.5 last night before. Depends when I'm posting this, but about 2 days after I first started it. And that's a lot quicker than Borderlands 2. And I think with this game I ended up just grinding out the story missions a lot quicker. I didn't really find myself distracted by side missions so much. And really I think that sums up the strengths and weaknesses of this game on the whole. The story missions are really good. I really enjoyed the storyline. If you played the previous games, especially Borderlands 2, then the story was actually quite engrossing, and it was interesting to see what happened between the games. And you kind of get to see how Jack becomes more and more psychotic, and how his face got scarred, and Lilith and Roland's involvement with it all, which you never really found out in Borderlands 2. And it seems like they actually put some effort into linking the games together. The side missions, though, are lacking, I think, at least in quantity. Those that I have done seem to be, on average, better written than a lot of the Borderlands 2 ones, which are often kind of fetch quest variants without a lot of humour written into them, and they can get pretty monotonous. In this game, the side quests do seem to have a little more effort put into them to make them more entertaining in terms of the characters who give the quest and those that you meet along the way. And even the fetch quest can end up pretty fun and quite kind of funny and amusing, but the lack of them and the lack of areas of just maps in general, on the fast travel there's not a lot of places to go even by the end of the game. It does make me worry slightly how much value we'll be able to get out of the game. At this point I think I might end up relying on how the DLC ends up, if there is any, to determine if I'll be putting as many hours into it as I did Borderlands 2, although that was a lot of hours. But what other new features were there? Laser weapons. I was a little bit skeptical of laser weapons after seeing them in the trailer, but I pretty much didn't use anything else for the entire playthrough. I'm not joking, laser shotguns are just awesome. They're incredibly powerful. They fire about as fast as a Jacobs could, but have a huge magazine size, and they're elemental. They can handle enemies of way higher level than they are, so I was using them for long periods of time before finding a new one, and they were doing just fine. The cryo elemental is absolutely awesome. I know that they put this in Borderlands 2 DLC, but I'm loving how kind of integrated it is in this game, and how often you can find a kind of ice elemental weapon. It essentially acts like slag in this game. And I like how they were able to implement the slag effect without having to awkwardly write slag into the storyline somehow. Seeing as Iridium is like a Pandora thing, and there shouldn't really be any on the moon, it's nice that they didn't kind of try and lamely add slag in, and instead they just use the cryo weapons instead. And the added bonus of enemies being frozen still is also really useful, especially as a melee character. Having them frozen and getting a damage bonus at the same time is just crazy valuable. And I've come to use almost exclusively cryo weapons because they give you such an awesome damage bonus. What else? Oh, the oxygen system. I thought this was going to be really irritating. I was like cringing when I saw the advert. I didn't think there would be so many opportunities to refill your reserves. I was worried that you'd be concerned with finding oxygen the whole time, which would end up kind of ruining the rest of the game. Fortunately, more of it than I expected takes place indoors. Between the oxygen bubbles outside the vents and the canisters dropped by enemies, I could probably count the number of times I've actually run out of oxygen on one hand, and I certainly haven't died from it yet. I almost find it hard to believe you can die from it. The ability to kind of use it to direct your jump when in midair as well is really cool. And it was nice to see that they kind of put some effort into the O2 mask, and they actually made that like an item. And there's a lot of nice little bonuses that you can add up. They kind of function like a like a second class mod. Not as powerful as a class mod, kind of like a backup to your class mod. They've got a lot of variation in them, so I quite like that. From what I've seen of legendary drops, I'm a little bit disappointed that a lot of them, if not all of them, are going to end up being the exact same as Borderlands 2. I assume there'll be some laser legendaries, but other than the character-specific item, it seems that the weapon, the shields, and the grenade mods are probably going to be largely the same. That's about all that's new with the game. In terms of Athena, for the second boss fight, I'm just going to kind of skip around because this boss is fairly boring, especially compared to the first one. Although, while I'm on the topic, this end boss I thought was so much better than the Warrior. The Warrior was a massive anticlimax. Borderlands 1, you know, the final boss was kind of annoying in terms of the storyline, and it was a bit anticlimactic. Borderlands 2, the Warrior was quite cool, but it just died so easily. It was just very easy. Whereas this one, it was actually quite fun. There's kind of two things to actually move around the map a lot more. You've got kind of a big boss and a small boss to get through. So I quite liked it. I thought it was definitely a lot better. I think it's the best kind of final storyline boss out of any of the Borderlands games so far. What was I going to say? In terms of Athena, if you haven't played through with her, then I'm going to confirm that she is a really fun character to play with. I think they did an awesome job with her design, honestly. I was a little worried that they'd made her underpowered as a melee character at first. If you make a melee character from the outset, though, it's very difficult to kind of get on top of things. Because a lot of the things you're putting points into just won't be that good until you get a lot of things working together and kind of comboing. And it was, I thought it was going to take some serious skill tree tinkering and item usage to get a really good build out of her, like it seemed to be with Krieg. However, once I'd finished off her middle tree and mixed in some cryo weapon usage, I was having a ball. Seriously, Blood Rush, her melee override, is insanely good, especially when comboed with Rend. And the Aspis, being able to block all frontal damage while using your melee attacks and being able to sprint with it, immensely useful. And the lunge on the Blood Rush is about 30 feet. I thought it meant a lunge as in, you know, a bit of magnetism towards your enemy. But no, she will fly across the room to stab someone. And the instant cooldown, once you get the hang of how to use it best with Rend, makes it an incredibly dangerous melee character. The epicenter skill to pull enemies in with the slam attack wasn't as good as I hoped. It doesn't really have much range at all. And I thought it'd be able to combo quite well with You've Got Red on You, which makes enemies explode when you kill them. But it's just not that effective, and I'm considering redirecting the points into other skills, which I initially thought would be pretty useless. But the melee override plus Rend is even better than I thought it would be. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll be starting a second playthrough with a new character. As with this game, I kind of want to get all the characters leveled at some point. And I'll be carrying on with Athena, though, on True Vault Hunter. For those more seasoned Borderlands players, you'll agree with me when I say normal mode is basically like the tutorial level in Borderlands terms. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've watched this far. I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you next video, which will probably be the solo raid boss version of the Sentinel. See you then.